you use technology to enhance telling the story and the human connection. Many people talk about, I will make we want to build a relationship so we can sell. Well, that's backwards. You sell them something, and that's the start of a relationship.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to your favorite CX show, the Engati CX show. I'm your host, Rahul, and today we have a technology expert with us on the show. But before we proceed with the show, I'd request you, all of you audiences out there, to please consider subscribing to the channel, because we have amazing people, amazing leaders, thought leaders coming from all over the globe and sharing their amazing knowledge and their insights about CX, digital transformation, AI, and all that cool stuff. So be sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any new videos that come out. And we post daily, by the way. And before I introduce you to our guest today, let me introduce you to the magic of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code chatbot platform, available across 14 channels, with 35,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as the top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, the video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, which you guys absolutely love, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And now for our amazing guest, we have none other than Warren Whitlock, and he is a director and an advisor in the business of future tech. He advises companies on what strategies need to be taken to make the most out of digital media tools, and advises enterprises on ICO, e-commerce, smart tech, new media, and the future of marketing. He's also an expert on how to drive growth and profits with these online tools and opportunities, with a focus on blockchain. He's also the author of Twitter Revolution, a guide on how mobile technologies and social media would revolutionize marketing and business. These trends will continue for decades. So welcome to the show, Warren. Such an honor to have you on board.
Glad to be here.
Appreciate that. So moving on to my first question that I have for you, Warren, is, in your opinion, right, what are some of the technological trends that are reshaping e-commerce in 2020?
Well, the big thing about e-commerce this year is that there's a lot more of it. There's more boxes coming to Amazon from Amazon to my house than ever before. It's as simple as that. We run a site called free-ebooks.net, and people downloading. As soon as the lockdowns appeared, we started having, anywhere from 100 to 400% on some categories, like audiobooks for children, things like that. Of course, there's a lot of romance and fiction and nonfiction and all sorts of things. And what we found out at the free ebook site was that, more people wanted more of everything. And the nice thing about being e-commerce, we didn't have to do anything about it. We do have some things for sale, and they just all went up, the graphs all going up and to the right. We're doing something right. And so there's that natural thing. And, we're having a better year overall, even post a lot of lockdowns and stuff, depending on where you are in the world. Right now, our India audience is way up. It's actually equal to or better than our native U.S. audience. All the big U.S., all the big English-speaking countries we have, but that's doing fantastic, and people just want to go online and buy something. I think a lot of it's getting out of their way, but the technologies that are really helping is AI for suggestion. It gets a lot of bad press about how the big tech companies are feeding you more ads and making you do things. Well, we're using context sensitive ads, even in our newsletter. So when we mail you a newsletter, the ad knows what's in the newsletter, and then it, targets it better. And we're barely doing that. There are systems where, and we're building one to help ours, where you get a different ad in the email than I get, even though we get the same newsletter. And it's, based on demographics and all sorts of stuff. So used right, spying on you and tricking you into things or politics, those are all hot issues. But when it comes down to just basic e-commerce, I like that Amazon knows. I started using Amazon in 95, 96, whenever they came out. And I instantly fell in love with the idea that this is going to be a database that knows what I buy. And I bought nothing but books back then. And, I actually didn't like buying books like for the family or for a gift, because it was so awesome the way it was finding things for me that I hadn't heard of, authors I hadn't heard of that weren't in the bookstore. And, why carry the books home when somebody will ship them to you? So I started using that right away. Today, it recommends all sorts of things. I don't care worry about what I buy. I do on video streaming channel. I just hate it when the grandkids come over and watch YouTube on my TV with me logged in, because then I'm getting lots of songs that that they're repetitive enough when the kids play them over and over. But anyway, so I think that's one of the greatest advancements. All the emerging technologies are there to get rid of friction and make things easier. If I'm going to see an ad, I want an ad for something I like. And it's clumsy sometimes, because you'll go to a page and see the same ad 4 times because you just visited that site. And of course, there's some sites where we don't want it to know what we're doing. And so, but that's getting worked out and doing better. But overall, again, in a closed system like Amazon, you find that, gosh, it knows what I want. I just bought a new nutritional supplement a few minutes ago, and I looked up what it was. I said, great, I want to buy that. And it was using words I didn't know, new technology of how they're putting nutrients in something. And I go like, okay, wait a minute. If this is real, it'll be on Amazon. Sure enough, there were, 14 things. And Amazon had on one of them, Amazon recommended. And I go, oh, what the heck? I got to go do an interview. I'll just click on that. I can always buy a better one later. And so we're using blockchain to track transactions. We're using IoT devices so that things will be automatically ordered. Jeff Bezos' vision of the future is that Amazon knows what you want. They'll drop it off, and you just, put it in another pile if you wanted to go back, and somebody comes and delivers and picks up stuff daily, and you don't have to think about it, because, if they got it wrong, okay. But usually, I have sometimes gone on there and it says, do you want to buy they call it subscribe and save. I buy something and I say, okay, well, I better get one a month. And I look on there and it's already defaulted to one every 2 months. And I go look at the dosage of the supplement and it goes like, oh, I do only need this once every other month. It'll be fine. The bottle is big. It covers a lot of this stuff. Yeah. So anyway, can you tell I just bought nutritional supplements? So that's what all my examples are this morning. But on everything, it's like that. Yesterday, socks arrived at my house. So, and it's, and of course, the fact that I don't have to go out is nice, because, I'm old and infirm enough that I could be somebody getting COVID if I go out wandering around. I don't worry about that, but at the same time, it sure is nice that there's no chance I'm going someplace. So anyway, and then all the other technology. I think we're going to see great innovations with 5G and nanotechnology in general, but that's not going to change e-commerce this year.
I absolutely fantastically, it's fantastic how great it is that it actually tailors down to what your necessities are, and it perfectly guesses, like you mentioned, how much of it do you need, and that really fascinates me every single time with Amazon, and that's crazy. Which gets me to my second question, but I know that you have already answered parts of this question. But touching more on it, how has e-commerce evolved over the years with technological advancement? Because you've been in the game for a long time now. So
Right.
What are the major changes that you've seen?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is the evolution for me is when I went to college, I studied how to value what a business was. And they told me there was this thing called goodwill. So you add up all the inventory. Do you have a good lease, or do you own the building? Do you have vehicles? All that kind of stuff. And then if you had contract employees, you could count the value of that asset, but you wouldn't count your hourly labor because, they walk out the door at the end of the day. And so you were trying to value what the business is. It would be the stuff. Now, we could have a whole argument over whether the real value of a business is in the people, but for accounting, that's the way we learned it. And then there was always this line, which was huge sometimes, the goodwill. And I go like, what the heck is that? And I know the dictionary definition of it. If it's the community buys is why your business is worth more than what the stuff in the warehouse is. Mm-hmm. It's just, so obvious. But I read a book, I believe it's from 1986, called Database Marketing. Mm-hmm. And I read about the idea that all of the value of a business is stored in the database of the customers, because the customers are where you derive the value. Employees too, but we're leaving that out today. I already said. And excuse me. We started. I started looking from there. I started looking at all the examples. One was a community store in a neighborhood. That store has most of its customers come from with 1 mile circle around the store. And of course that varies by industry and whatnot. But convenience store, small grocery, whatever, will get only a very local. And of course anybody can walk in from anywhere, but you don't want to advertise to somebody that's in the next city over, because they're going to have to pass by 400 stores like yours to get to you. There's no reason for them to come. Unless they're in that neighborhood for some other reason. And then of course that attaches to the whatever house or business they're going to. And if you think about it, that is a database. That is, it's not on your mailing list. You don't personally know everybody. They use the example of a liquor store. Well, nobody underage should be in your database. Nobody that does not drink alcohol should be in your database. There's only a specific number of people. It's finite. And I've replaced what they used to, I haven't heard the term from anybody but me in this explanation for a long time. That goodwill of the business is the database. Well, and then I flash back to how I learned direct marketing, because I studied advertising. We were studying the examples of what David Ogilvy wrote in his book. If you haven't read Ogilvy on Advertising, great way to understand business in general. The first book was called Confessions of an Ad Man. And so the Ogilvy on Advertising didn't come out until after I went to school. But now it's required reading in universities of anybody studying advertising. And his examples were very long copy. Of telling a story, of headlines that were 25 words long. And then he put a lot of effort into how he was writing this copy. And he told the story behind it, how he got to it. They're all brands. I know a couple of the examples, but I'm thinking like they're all brands that are long gone, because he was doing this like in the 60s, and where the madman came from, and how that worked. And then he said something that just really stuck out to me. He said, if you really want to know what ad works, look at the direct mail. Back then, if you wanted to get somebody to do direct response, which is what e-commerce is, if you wanted direct response back before the internet, you would place a magazine ad. And in January, you would buy the magazine ad that might come out in the April issue, released sometime in late March and mailed. Okay, so you had to have your ad in complete 2 months before, and then to get results from it would take a month to have the orders come in the mail. And they put them to post, and you get your money and ship the goods. And so those results. Well, what do you do for the May issue of the magazine? It's a cycle that's was very time sensitive. It took years to get good tests and figure out what was working. But he says, if you look at it in the back of a magazine, again, this is old because I wouldn't say do that today. But he said, go to a magazine and look at the ads that are in the back of the magazine that are there again and again, month after month. And it says, you know, to respond, post to this address. Well, then you know that's working, because after 3-4 years, that's making money, or it's gone. Whereas an ad for a beautiful new car, or what kind of facial cream you should use, shampoo, you know, who knows? They can't trace those to the sales the same. Amazon can, but back in the day you couldn't. And so that stuck with me, those two things together. Now watch the evolution. We got to where we could send email and communicate in that way, and it was much faster. I had a newsletter that I mailed. I was in the laser printer business, so I used my laser printer and printed out, you know, 1,000 copies of the newsletter, then put a sticker on them and mailed them to the people in my database. Because as soon as I started the business, I started a database. I then found out I could fax it, and we were faxing thousands a month out of just standard computers. And then the next thing was we were able to get a web page, and it was and the domain was expensive, the hosting was expensive, very, very clunky, and dial-up modems and that whole thing. But people started liking it, and then I connected it to I started connecting to people I knew from CompuServe, which was an all text-based system. And I've sold a lot of things that way. And then finally, the PPC came along, so before Google, and we bought ads on that network, and people started buying our products. And they're like, this is pretty good, because then we had a system where we didn't have to wait for somebody else. And so today, you can take a picture of something, post it online, and sell it in minutes, if the price is right or the offer is right. So, but the basics of marketing are the same. There's 3 M's. You need to have, I'm probably going to forget them with the right M word, but the market needs to be, you need to go to the right people, either that mile radius around the store, or just people who have green hair, or, whatever it is. And the typical demographics that we learn about in the basic marketing manuals and stuff is kind of silly. Psychographics, a term they just talked about when I was in school. And last I heard, they're still teaching very little of it. The attitudes, why somebody wants to do something, what's their mind, what are they thinking about? Even in this interview, I'm thinking like, what's his audience like? What, who's going to be, see people with chatbots? How do I use a story or something like that will fit better? I would say mail. If I'm in the US, I talk to a worldwide audience, I use post. You post a letter. And so, we don't say that here, but I've learned to, whoever I'm communicating with, try to drop in some of that. I don't do accents. Accents get you in trouble, but maybe I tailor my jokes. So yeah, and so today it's just an easier way to do that. And if you're not thinking of how to sell to one individual, you haven't thought it through enough. Even if you get it wrong, and somebody goes like, why are you sending me an ad for a bra? Was that saying something about how fat I am? Oh, no, it was meant for a woman. Okay, fine. That's okay. I'm gonna maybe be mildly offended, but if you just like treat everybody like they're the same, all you guys buy this. It's like, I want the email coming to me or the web screen to say, "Hello, Warren. It's good to see you." So one more tip on that. Every time I write a web page, I look at how can I collect somebody's email if they're not going to make the transaction. And every email I send is go to my website. So you always want to get that cycle going, no matter what you're doing. And then when they arrive, you want to say either thank you or congratulations. You want to let them know when I send you an email and you click, or a Facebook ad, it's all the same. Postcard, it doesn't matter. When they respond, the website needs to say, "Hey, glad you're here. We got exactly what you're looking for." And it needs to use the words. That's a generic what I said, but it needs to say, You're looking for pistachios. I've got it. I've got bags of pistachio. You want them roasted, peeled, whatever, I've got them for you. And I knew this is what you were looking for. And that won't be applied to anybody else. To Warren, who hates pistachios, I'll hate that website. But my wife sees a website saying, this is the pistachio place that you've been looking for, and she just goes ape for it.
Great. And you're actually the fourth person to mention that book, Database Marketing. I've been having a lot of conversations, and a lot of the thought leaders have been mentioned this. I think it is by Robert C. Blackburg, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I had trouble finding it the last time I went on Amazon, because
Yeah.
it was, remember back then, your database would help you mail something. It wasn't talking internet at all in the 80s.
Right.
And it's just that concept I got out of the book. But yeah, I would recommend that, studying that. But again, I said the 3 M's. It's the market, the message that has to be, what we were talking about in their language, and then the offer.
Right.
And I'm forgetting the 3 M's, but those are the basic things. You have to talk to the people. The medium is the other one.
Yeah,
the medium has to be, if I'm talking to you on a live video, it's going to be different than if I write a sign for my front yard to get you to come in. That's going to make a message. So you get a message, media, and market match. And you got something. And in the message, that's where you put in offer, because offer's got to be right. If I say this is the greatest thing ever, and it's only going to cost you $1 million US, it's like, well, no, I want to live forever, but if paying $1,000 a day for a supplement is what I'm going to need, I just can't do it. And so it does make a difference. And the biggest mistake everybody makes because of that, I think we all know that inherently, but the mistake comes at being, I'll just offer a special price, 50% off. And that's very dangerous, because if I can sell for $1 and I start selling for 50 cents, that means all of the profit I was making between 50 cents and $1 is gone. And that means, so now what? I got to supply it for 30 cents and I could make 20. Well, maybe, but I could have been making 70. So the profits go down much faster than and the other thing is, most people don't go, like the pistachio thing. My wife would not get excited that she found, she's quite the shopper. You said pistachios on sale. Yeah, she's okay. But but what she wants is the best, the freshest. We got a new way of making them. Everybody wants to hear a story. And then, and I know this is true, because nobody's more of a price shopper than my wife. And I watch her again and again say, no, I got to have this. I'm going like, that supplement, I got one supplement. Today's all supplements, sorry. Got one supplement she pays $50 each month for. And the same type of stuff is available from Amazon or the store. It's available anywhere. It's just common stuff that's in food. Right. And I go like, you could be paying $20. You could be paying $5. Why must I pay $50 for this? Well, it's the only one that works. And they're like, you take 27 supplements every day. How could one completely change? And you're telling me you're feeling down today. But no, it's because the story in her head is that is the only place, and that has to be bought. And I found out for $600 a year, I have a little bit more happy wife some days, and so I pay that. I don't take it myself, because it doesn't make sense.
True. That was wonderful. But now getting the conversation to something that we do, and it's no secret that the chatbot systems and the chatbot technologies have kind of, even with Amazon and a lot of these companies, they have like revolutionized the way we actually interact with our customers too. So how, according to you, can chatbots help in personalizing e-commerce, and how can brands really leverage this technology to reduce cart abandonment?
Well, that's one issue. You use technology to enhance telling the story and the human connection. Many people talk about, I will make we want to build a relationship so we can sell. Well, that's backwards. You sell them something, and that's the start of a relationship.
True.
It takes 6 times the effort to get a new sale than it does to keep one. That's a stat I pulled out of someplace. I learned it. I studied. I read a book on it. I can't remember where that comes from, but yeah, it takes up to 6 because especially we were doing B2B, business selling, and where you had to call, you had to get the right person, make an appointment, go out, see them, and everything. Now the reorders come in, automatically because they're on contract or it's shipped until told not to. And so, in fact, sometimes the frustration as a salesman back in the day was I can't get into a place because they've made a decision to go with the big national competitor and they're just going to always use them. It's a chain of hospitals we were doing work for that every quarter they would tell us they weren't going to use us anymore. And they were one of our largest customers. And so we did all sorts of things to try to make sure we were pleasing them. When we got to the staff at that hospital where we actually did the work, they loved us. They called us when they couldn't solve problems. They were in computer repair and they need their laser printers fixed. But then, what about this other printer? Can you fix that? Sure, we'll figure it out, whatever it is. And so national repair made a contract with the national hospital chain that said, you're all going to do this. You're all going to take care of us. We have a state-of-the-art system. You make one phone call. Well, you make that phone call and you talk to the kind of person that answers the phone, not a technician who knows what's in room 16, right? And our guys had been out there and knew it. And so, and we had a can-do attitude of if somebody says no one can fix this, bring it to me. I'll figure it out. And with that, we just kept getting back in. So chatbots are doing that in every transaction in every way. And if you just make sure, I like when I make a phone call and get a recording and it's something that it's useful to me. But if it's like, that you could get maybe faster service if you went to our website. Well, what do you think? It's 2020. You think I haven't been I've been doing this for 25 years of me going to a website to look stuff up. You think I don't know that? And why is it every time I get on a plane, I have to be told how to put on a seatbelt? They've been saying that since before you were born. I know how to put on a seatbelt. There may be somebody that needs help. That's why they have flight attendants check to make sure everybody's got a seatbelt on. So why bother telling us again and again? That is that same emotion I get when I go to bad audio response. What do you call those? The systems on the phone or a chatbot. It's the same thing. I imagine that there's a human who wrote what's there, and that so I'm a marketer. I'm trying to make it work better, right? But if it's me asking a question and then it comes back and says, did you know that we also have this for sale? What? How about answering my question? And immediately figure out if you can't answer my question, click and I go over to a human and it says, and then the human doesn't come on and say, what was your question? First, let me get to know you. I don't have to repeat it again. So integrating it into your system is vital. And I haven't used your technology, so I can't, speak to that. But anything I do, I'm trying to integrate. Back to that whole database idea that every person, it's not that I want to sell something to the database. I want to sell something to each individual in there because they're different people with different needs and they speak in a different way. If I can't speak their language, I'm working with a company now that does remote call center technology, so there are still call centers that are growing, doing better, of course, especially this year. But he's got technology now where you don't need to go to a call center to have a call center job. That you or I could log into a computer, answer questions that people wanted. For instance, I wouldn't do it unless I got paid very well. Maybe not my regular hour rate, but at least half of my hourly rate. So I'm not doing it at 10 cents per call. $1 per call. No, I'd be charging, $1, $2, $5 per minute. I do that. And then, of course, when I do that, I can't tell stories. But you tell stories like, oh, I just told a $25 story. But yeah, I like the idea that I could do that because I could help somebody and do that. And I would only get the call if I said I was available and there was a call with a question I could answer. Systems like Quora already do that. We're seeing a lot of stuff happen. But when you get it down to you call and the AI detects or whether or not it's, let's use chatbot. On a chatbot, if the AI detects you don't speak English, but you're on an English website, it'll make you an offer. Would you like, and it'll ask you in the right language and the right script because it picks that up from your computer. It knows what time zone you're in. And I don't see much of that in chatbots yet. If you're doing it, congratulations. You're the first I've seen that it actually pulls in that information about the person and gives them a better experience. I know you must be checking the browser type and things like that when somebody is using it so that it displays properly. But what about the rest of the information you can get? And again, we get into privacy and cookies and stuff. I don't care. Work that stuff out. That has to be done. But what I want as a consumer is to have someone that says, "Oh, hi, Warren. We know about you. I see you've been having some trouble with the shopping cart. How can I help?" And then go ahead and put the frequently asked questions in there. When frequently asked questions were invented, it was the Usenet. It wasn't the web. Usenet bulletin board type things, forums we call them today. And the idea was, it actually was the full definition of FAQ was read the damn frequently asked questions and leave me alone. It's like, and you would get it. You would sign into the system. You still see it occasionally today, but back in the 90s, it would be you log on to this chat thing, and of course, bandwidth was very expensive. So they say like, please do not ask what the store hours are. That's in a document. And when I ran a store, people would call and they would say, what are your hours? And we would go like, oh crap, we need a voice system that'll say what our hours are. Hey, guess what? When somebody calls and says, what are your hours? They're interested in coming to the store. And I'm going to tell them, what do you need? We usually close at 5, but I'll stick around if you're coming to buy something. Just let me know. Because now they're committed. They walk in the store and they say, I told the guy, and he kept the store open. And I go like, that's going to be a good sale. But back in the day, I didn't say that. I was like, oh crap, how can we automate this and get this stuff off our back? And Amazon in the early days would send you notices about UPS. I was a daily UPS shipper. I knew the system, right? So I get a notice from Amazon saying your package has shipped. And I'm going, well, that's great. It's only been an hour. I mean, it was back in the 90s, so the times were different. It's only been an hour or two, and they've already sent me this thing to ship it. But wait a minute. UPS doesn't pick up till the end of the day. How does it already have a tracking number? They were an early innovator in getting a tracking number before the truck came and picked it up. And so I go into my UPS system, and I put in the tracking number, and it says the tracking number doesn't exist. Amazon hasn't transmitted it to UPS yet, and they're sending me an email that it's already on its way. And so a minor annoyance, right? And something that we don't worry about today. But I then clicked on the customer service and wrote a note saying, this doesn't make sense. You shouldn't do this. The very next time they shipped me something, the notice came the next morning instead of that night, because that was what it took back then, was overnight. They had changed the system. I'd like to tell you that they changed it because me and I'm so bright and I came up with that. But no, they probably had a lot of people asking for it. I've read the story of Netflix getting started. They were doing the same kind of thing. They wanted to tell customers what they needed, estimate, and even on what DVD titles they would rent back then. And they were wrong as often as they were right. And then they got into the attitude of, we're going to keep changing and adapting. You used to go into an early Netflix and tell it what DVDs you wanted, so that if you just they sent me 3 DVDs, I watched them, I sent them back, 3 more would come. They were always on a list. great. Well, I have a list on Netflix today, but I don't use it because they've so many other ways they figured out what's new, exciting, what I might want to watch, and it's it's Bollywood movies mostly. So.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, uh, even at Engati also, we believe that uh, rather than keeping it all fancy and technological with the repetitive things, just make it easy for the customer to make his purchase at the end of the day, because
Right.
that's what the customer wants. I mean, if you come again, you have the same script, same
Yeah,
things coming.
find people who are dying to look. This is why I've been teaching this since the internet came around.
Right.
It used to be I was taught to sell by going door to door and knocking on a door and ask somebody if they needed it. No one wants that today. If somebody has a route and they have customers they use, to, might be someone in the neighborhoods making rounds or whatever, but they don't go to every door anymore. It's just like, why? Not everybody wants this. That house. We know that house has dogs, and we sell cat food. And it's like, you hear the barking. Stay away from that house. Very simple things like that we take for granted today. It flipped, about 20 years ago, to where if you're wasting time trying to sell to anybody, as soon as I talk to a marketer and I say, what is your audience? And they go like, everybody. No. And they say, chatbots, great example. No, your audience isn't everybody. Your audience isn't every business. And your audience isn't even every business with a website, because a lot of them have no clue and they're not ready for a chatbot. Sure. Now, you can get a lot of goodwill by putting them in your database, taking care of them. The minute they come looking and say, could I make more money with the chatbot? You go, yeah, here's an ebook of how you make more money with the chatbot. But you got to expect the majority of those people aren't ready to actually have a chatbot. They don't have a product to sell yet. But you get them and they know about you and the brand and what you're doing here. They know about you before they make that decision. And the more targeted you can get to take care of people, the better. You got to be careful. I heard one about a robot vacuum. And so it's part of a long story, and I'll cut out most of it. But basically, vacuums, those robot vacuums predominantly sell to women 25 to 45. Okay, they do not sell to men. They do not sell to people older. I guess don't want to bother. Not my case. But I was 62 when we bought ours. But predominantly it's women. And again, I shopped and bought the thing. And so the story I heard was this well-off couple had retired, moved to someplace. The husband's motivation was they had a large dog that would shed, and he didn't want to get out a broom and sweep. Right. So he bought his wife a gift to make her life easier. It was weird because he was retired and she wasn't. But but the wife was doing all the floor cleaning, and she says, well, I can help with that. I'll buy a robot. If you go to the robot makers and ask what their target demographic is, no, that's not. We don't sell to 67-year-old white men in suburbs of Oregon. No, we sell to women predominantly in apartments where they're out all day, and the robot can go automated and blah blah blah, and you just don't know. But what you do know is that when somebody says, I want a robot, or somebody says, I need to get rid of pet hair and I'm tired of sweeping, that guy you can have a message for. And your chatbot should be telling you that people are asking questions. You want people to ask you questions that you don't have a FAQ for. You want them going like, do you sell pistachios on this site? And it's a shoe site. It's like, well, maybe we ought to, maybe we ought to have a bag of pistachios promotion, or maybe we ought to make a deal with somebody that wants that, or maybe we just, put pistachio colored shoes out. And you'll learn because people will tell you. Amazon does that. They surveyed me yesterday. They're upgrading again. I am an Amazon reviewer for Prime Video. I get to watch shows months before. Sometimes a new show will come on and it's been promoted. I'm going like, great new season. Wait a minute, didn't I see that season? I start watching them going like, oh, I saw the first 3 of 10 episodes of this. Right. And so, now it's been months, so I watch the 3 episodes again. But man, do I feel special that they picked me to do this.
Right.
I don't know how they picked me or what I did or what I bought that got me into this program, but I get asked questions all the time about the Amazon productions, the stuff they're making. And it makes me feel special. And you can do that because, I mean, Amazon never talked to me. So essentially their bot took care of it.
Right.
Their bot is the whole website.
Yeah, that's true.
But then when I needed, that's why I tell the story of when I needed something back in the 90s, they needed to change their policy. They took care of that. They sent that. Back then too, they also, because they were young and made mistakes or whatever, they shipped me an extra book. I think something was missing, but they shipped me this book. And it was a cheap little book, not on a subject I would care about at all. And they sent it to me. And so I write in, I say, I got this book by mistake. Let me ship it back to you. They're going to keep the book. And oh man, I feel good. Zappos, Zappos.com? Zappos.com.
Yep.
Site. They're located here in Las Vegas. They, by the way, picture's not right. I'm not wherever this picture is. That's not my window. You would see desert out there or something, or actually probably more houses because I'm in the suburb. But anyway, they're located here, and the tour is just phenomenal. I mean, it's like going to see one of the seven wonders of the world or whatever like that. You go to this place and it's nothing but desk and people on phones and so one thing was like, couldn't all these people do this from home? But then it was the culture. You could feel it. Right. Teams decorating their cubicles together and doing something. The free food, just the way you knew you were in a really great place to work. Right. And then they would tell stories of the guy who called and talked for 8 hours and wasn't buying shoes. And that they had, bathroom breaks. They then showed me the station where they make handcrafted cards and things to send to people. And I think it's very common now, but back in the day, they were talking about, this is 10 years ago, they were talking about how they would upgrade the shipping. Right. So that someone in the East Coast of US buys buy something at 9 p.m. That's right by midnight. That can be picked and put on a plane, fly to their location. They ship everything from Tennessee, and that's where FedEx is, and be there the next morning. So it's late at night. I'm watching TV, and I say, let me look at the shoes during the commercial. Click on this, and the next morning it's there for you to wear the next day, and that was like a $75 service, but they gave it to people sometimes because their warehouse was all set up to do that. And as you know, Amazon's acquired them, and they do it now. That where I live, many times I can order something in the morning and it comes in the afternoon. And because of the runs on toilet paper and things like that were happening, the store where we go and pick up groceries and whatnot, we've been using a service drive up and they bring it out to your car for years, but they kept trying to accommodate for the virus and whatnot, and they got way overloaded and they started doing appointments, and you'd look out for a week and there were no appointments, and we'd just say, come back later. How many sales did they lose? And when that opened back up that it was available, I just did it a couple of days ago, bought something in the morning and went and picked it up within 2 hours, which is not that hard because they have actual human beings going out and picking up what you want out of the store and putting it into a box. It's 10 minutes work, but their system to get that order out to that person was working so well that, we picked, I said to the wife, you can pick this up at 1 p.m. And she, oh, okay, great. And then she's got a notice, and at 9 a.m. I say, where are you going? Well, they opened, I'm going to go pick up the order, and, I don't have to go back later. What? It's been a couple of hours and this happened. And I'm delighted that it gets better. Right. And people know that you get better. And chatbots, what a way to do that. In fact, you got me thinking, what can I do to get more new information out of my chatbots?
Right. Absolutely. And that's about it. Like, that's the whole thing, like, adding value to the customer other than irritating the guy. That's the whole whole
Right. And a
concept.
lot of it is, what are your store hours, or, do you take this credit card? Those
Yeah,
kind of questions. Yeah. Let the bot answer them.
exactly. Exactly.
That's fine. I think we're used to that. Now, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I'd say, no, I don't want to talk to a robot. But
True.
today they're good enough that, you still know you're talking to a robot. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I have a game I play. I have a large Twitter following. So I make up stuff to kind of entertain them, but stay near our topic.
Right.
And so I found a site called thispersondoesnotexist.com. And please put it in your show notes or whatever. Let people know
For
about
sure.
that one. It is fantastic. You go there and your screen fills up with the portrait of a person that does not exist. The AI has created.
Right.
And there are so many of them, very unlikely anybody will get the same one again. And it's unique faces. And you can take them, and I think you're supposed to attribute it to them. If you do, well, I certainly mentioned their domain name enough. But if you're using it on your website or whatever, tell people where you got it. But I will get, when I post it, I will get some guy who thinks they know AI, or they work in the field, or they're a graphic design person. They'll say, you can see the glitching right on the hairline. And they didn't cut. I look at it and I say, I see a person.
Right.
We don't have time to examine it like that.
Right.
And I have to remember that if they'd have done it 2 years ago, every one of them would look like crap.
True.
And you do it and you hit refresh and it goes again. And sometimes I go through 4 or 5 because, I want to use a picture of a woman. And then I'll say, has anybody seen this person? And I just post that. And it's just hilarious what people have to say about it, because they know and they're making up jokes about it because I do it so often. But I just find every time I need to make a statement about, well, that's wrong, or right, they're arguing over politics or whatever, I go like, well, let's ask Howard. He will know.
True. Well, that sounds
I have
interesting.
to say, it's mostly white people on there right now. So
Right.
there's
Right.
other sites that do a better job at you can pick race and age and things like that. But the simplest one is, this person does not exist. So there's my tech tip for the day.
Right. Well, thank you for that. But getting the conversation to something that is interesting, and when it comes to today's day and age, I think mobile technology has played like a huge role. So how has the mobile technology really revolutionized the e-commerce industry, and what is its impact on marketing and business? I think this is one important question.
Well, I think if you're doing anything and not considering that people are going to be using their cell phone, their mobile when they shop with, another one of those words that's different depending on who you're talking to. Mobile. When you're using your mobile, we don't say that in the U.S. But
Right.
you just got to imagine that most people are. I don't know what the numbers are on today or something like that, but the trend is there. We saw this coming. We wrote the first book about Twitter back in 2008, and the subtitle says how social media and mobile marketing are changing the way we market and do business, or something like that. Very long subtitle that I never memorized, and years later I go like, oh yeah, mobile marketing. We were saying it's coming. It's it's bigger than social media. And so, that's we talked about it, and you don't need to go read that book to know that it's happening. Here it is 12 years later. It's different. It's just it used to be that they said you need to format your website so that it can be seen on a mobile. Now it's like you need to consider that a few people are going to have a desktop when they come to your site. The app is the same no matter where it is. So imagine that anyone coming to your, I like to use brick and mortar examples. Anyone that comes to your store has the phone in their hand when they come in. And the paranoia of it used to be, they're going to come in my store and then check my prices on Amazon. I've done that, but no, that's cumbersome. Nobody wants to do that. I just stopped going into the store and just buy it on Amazon. I no longer buy it because Amazon's got a better price.
Right.
I buy it because if I need something, I open up Amazon in a browser or on my mobile. I do not. And I expect the same experience everywhere. There is a disagreement between Apple and Amazon where Amazon wants to be able to, they don't want to pay the usurious rates that Apple wants. You can tell which side of this argument I'm on. Amazon gets, if you put an app in the App Store, they're taking like what, 30% of revenue off the top?
Right.
Well, if you're making a game and it's free for each new person you add to it, or very tiny incremental cost, well, then paying 30% is no big deal. Pay them 50%. But it's like whatever it takes to make it work, because your cash comes in, and they handle all that for you. But if what you're doing is shipping a case of toilet paper to somebody, you can't pay 30%. And so they keep trying to make, and of course Kindle, now they got digital products, and that's what. So I read books on Kindle. It frustrates the heck out of me that I can't just decide to buy one while I'm using the Kindle, or I'm listening to a podcast and I want to buy the book that gets mentioned. No, I can't. I'm on my tablet. It's an iOS device. No, I can put it on my wish list and then go and buy it. And I found out, I got a nice big iPad Pro now, and I found out okay, I can put up the website and I can just treat it like I'm on a desktop, and then I can buy stuff. I'm going like, oh, how rude! Don't do that to me. I'm listening to a book and I want to buy another book. Buy it. I don't want to be restrained. And Amazon does that better than anybody of knowing what you want and formatting for you. But still, there's so many glitches in it. So, my prediction for the future is we are going to reduce friction a lot faster. The future's going to come at us faster. Change will be faster than it's been in the past. Boy, if this year is any indication, this is what the 20s are going to be like. And I'm calling it the Great Acceleration because I think this virus talk is going to be gone. And I don't want to live in a post-COVID world. I want to live in a world where we don't have to mention the virus. So the Great Acceleration for me is, as these technologies that we've talked about come on, make it very simple that that the system knows what you want. And again, you're in a big conduit of that, of how do we talk to the customer and get what they want. Just don't forget that it's human. It's human beings doing that. If my doctor can get a better diagnosis with AI than he can do because he can't read all the new papers, he should do that. And then maybe he can spend 5 minutes with me explaining why that the procedure is the best thing to do. Instead of coming in, they have done studies that if a doctor touches the patient, their recovery rate is 30% more. Now, it could be the surgeon that was digging around inside your body, but you don't know that he did that. He comes into your room and feels your forehead, uses his stethoscope, just touches your elbow, anything like that. And those simple things, 30% better recovery rates. And so there's a perfect example. We don't need to get rid of doctors. We need to let doctors spend time with patients. Because mostly what people want, everybody wants the same thing out of life. You want to connect. You want to be with other people and have growth. And in fact, that's down to how atoms work with the electrons and proteins. They need proteins, really on nutritional supplements today. Protons, electrons, the negative and positive charges, they have to be perfectly balanced, or we would never even have atoms. You get down to the quantum level. That's how the universe is put together. And some people say, I don't like people. I don't want to be around people. But no, they want some form of connection. Even if you're a coder in a basement and you hate people, you have your music blaring and please don't bother me. And I've got to code all night. They're doing that for the connection. They want to impress the other coder that they're better. They want to make the machine do something, and it's always to do something to, even if it's hacking, they're helping another human being get what they want. Because I can hack into the bank and take all your money, but what good is it? Now I've got a big win. I got that. I can't tell anybody about it, because the other, without a connection, I can't do anything. I can't brag about it. I can't, buy anything with it. You need people to do all that kind of stuff.
True.
And
True.
so, gosh, people, it's just so important in connection. I'm really glad we connected today. This is
Great.
I have not talked about this stuff in an awful long time in a program like
Me
this.
too. Well, I'm glad you
will
got
refer
it.
people to it.
Right.
Sometimes the things I say, I don't even know where they're coming from. So.
Well, yeah,
the
but
wisdom of old age.
exactly, and that's what we need, because we have so many young entrepreneurs, business owners that watch this show, and they need this, right? This is some real talk that you're giving us. It's dropping Engati gems.
And I wish anybody listening, if you're still listening after all this, reach out to me. I'm Warren Whitlock on Twitter, and on most any place else. You can find me by Googling and warrenwhitlock.com. I'd love to hear from people.
Absolutely.
Not just the great attaboy, thanks for being on the show, which please do that. I love to be subscribe to this show, subscribe to my show. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But what I really like is the comments when somebody says, yeah, but it's different for me. I have this problem. I answered somebody in a direct message on Twitter yesterday who said, we're just so poor. I need help. And I go like, well, first of all, there's no way I do not have the bandwidth to figure out whether that's a real person or somebody just trying to scam me. And then if I want to send money, how do I send money to Uruguay?
Exactly.
There you go. That the bandwidth is more than in him. And I could send him a small amount of money and it might help, but that's not really what helps.
True.
I wrote a book called Billions Rising about the people that make under $2 a day. And it's a phenomena going on in the world that we just don't hear about. Average person in surveys, if you say, is the world got more poverty or less? The world has, even though that number goes up as the population grows, there is less percentage of people making $2 a day or less. They're now moving into the $10 a day.
Right.
And so, which is nothing in where I live, but in some parts of the world, that's a big change in their life. As we started researching the stories of people that were helping them, they help with a hand out and not a handout, a hand up rather than a handout is what we would say.
Right.
And people want to do that, and they're proud. If I'm working hard and my family's starving, I want to work hard and get an answer to it. I don't want, it's nice that the charity feeds. If you're starving, hey, you're starving, come by. I'll give you some food. There's no doubt about that. That's basic compassion. But then the next thing is, if you're coming to my house every day asking for food, I'm going to go, wait a minute, let's sit down and talk. What is you really need? Why are you in a position where you feel like begging is okay? And almost everybody will say, well, I had this happen. Yeah. What are you doing to get out of it? Because we found that in the U.S., 60% of people who are homeless will not be homeless next year. They've lost the house. They've had a tragedy. They got divorced. They had an illness, and they got pushed out onto the street. But they immediately find a family member, or the system helps them, or whatever. And once they get fed, they're trying to get a new job, trying to, get it back into a place. Everybody wants to do that. And so it's the same with the homeless as it is with the people that are in Kenya growing a farm there's a book called The Last Hunger Season, the story of mostly 4 families. And as they go through it's the 1 Acre Fund is behind this. They go in, and in the 1 year, they quintuple the yield on their farm. And so they go from starving for a couple of months of the year to, abundance. At the same time, there's all sorts of problems, like the cost of what they're growing is 50. I don't remember what the money is in Kenya, but anyway, it goes between 50 and 150.
Right.
So if when you harvest, it's worth 50, because when it was getting up to 150, because anybody couldn't find it, we're running out, and then the aid comes in, and a big truck comes, and everybody gets free maize, is what they were growing, and the price drops 150 to 50. That's a 2/3 of the price drops.
Right.
And now you got a field full of that stuff you have to harvest and sell it at the lower price. But that's still, they have more means and more food and whatnot. Banking has changed all that. In Kenya, in the early teens, there were 85% had no banking at all. Now there are M-Pesa accounts for more than 100% of the adult population of Kenya. And M-Pesa is getting money on your phone. Talking about mobile making a change. Wow. And it's specific to Kenya. They're branching out with it, where their systems like all over the place. Just an old, crappy mobile from, something I would have thrown away 20 years ago. And they're now using this kind, and they're able to send a text and send the money. And all of a sudden, instead of having all the money they have on their person, you don't leave money in your hut because, anybody can come in. You carry it on your person. You sell the goat and you get some money. And what are you going to do with it? And I got to worry about being robbed. So you go to a store, they take the money and send it to your M-Pesa account. And then, you don't need a bank.
Right.
And so that's changing banking. That will change institutions. And the money being controlled by the central government is not going to be able to be controlled by the central government. I'm not a radical. Let's get rid of the U.S. dollar kind of person. I can understand that feeling, but I'm going like, no, little by little, it'll just be like, I don't carry cash. I don't carry a wallet because I don't leave the house. So when I do have my wallet, it has some money in it because of whatever. And if I get cash, it goes into the banking system, and I don't want to pay for anything with dollar bills.
Right.
And that has abruptly changed things, but we don't see it because we just make individual decisions. Like getting email. I remember when a lot of people said, no, I don't need an email account. Or they would set up the email account. Is this true of your parents, that they would set up an email account and put both names on it?
Yeah.
Or a family email account?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
See, we did when we were supporting those people in the 90s. We would call them the web TV user. I bet you don't even know what a web TV is, right?
No, I don't.
It was like a game console. You hooked it up to your TV set, and it had a long cord into a keyboard, and you could do rudimentary things. You could get on the AOL, and you could, figure out a way to send a message and maybe a picture. And it would basically help you pick some TV channels better. And so they had a printer port on them, but a lot of printers just wouldn't work. Because back in the day, now you plug in a printer, the operating system figures out what it is and takes care of it. But in the 90s, you had to get the driver. You had to, it had to come on a disc, and you had to put it in the machine. And so we did. We offered free drivers, and we would download it, put it on a disc, and mail it to somebody.
Right.
And there was actually a 19-step process because the label, the stickers, the extra material we put in there so they buy something else. It's the whole process. We would do dozens a day of those. And it was just hilarious that we weren't manufacturing anything. We were just downloading them and sending them to people. But anyway, and so when those people had printers, they would definitely call and go, this thing won't work. We brought a printer from the office, and you got to buy a special printer for it. By the way, while you're at it, just throw the web TV away. But somehow we got known. The people were finding us on the internet for that. There was a Hewlett Packard, HP, made a line of printers called Apollo. They were trying to compete with the very low end, and HP is a quality brand. They came out with this Apollo thing, very, very cheap thing. And they were the same printers that we knew, minus some of the features and frills and, getting along with anything. And so I noticed 10 years after we shut that business down, you still search for help with your Apollo printer or how to print. Oh, and how to print a reverse page. You want to do a T-shirt transfer, you got to flip everything.
Flip it up.
And those were popular at the time when those came out in the 90s. And so our webpage for that, they're gone now. But a few years ago, I checked and I'm going like, I ranked #1 for how to print in reverse because I wrote an article about it back in the 90s. Right. And so you do something good, it's going to endure, it's going to help people. Sure. And there are billions of people that are looking for what you do. You don't need to go out and, I don't need to try to convince you need to buy what I'm doing. I got somebody else that wants to buy it. Let me go find them.
Yeah.
So it's completely 180 degrees off of what I learned as a salesman in the 80s. But at the same time, it's the same process because I still need to persuade people, make it easier for them, tell them a story. All the stuff I did as a salesman, I just get to do it to millions of people now.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
this has been a delight.
Yeah,
I thought
for
we were going
sure.
to talk for a little bit less time, but it's been a delight.
Yeah, but it's quality conversation. Well, and I can't thank you enough, Warren, for the amazing insight and giving us your time, because they've been great. And I know for a fact that our audience is really going to enjoy the show.
Good. I look forward to seeing it released, and I'll share it with people.
100%. So thank you so much, guys, for joining on Engati CX. You had the amazing Warren Whitlock dropping Engati gems for you exclusively on the show. But before you guys drop out, let me just remind you that we have an amazing webinar coming through. It's about solving complex queries of customers in real time with the amazing Dennis Wakabayashi. It's on the 3rd of October. So all the details will be available in the show notes. The website for Warren and all his contact details will be available on the show notes. So if you guys have any queries, you can go and reach out to Warren directly. He'll be there for you guys. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you around for the next one.